Hello, today I'll be discussing inheritance and divorce. Here in England and Wales, when parties are going through a divorce, the court puts into consideration a couple of things. And one of the things the court puts into consideration is the division of matrimonial assets. What are matrimonial assets? Matrimonial assets are assets owned by parties to the marriage, either jointly or solely, both home and abroad. However, there are some assets owned by parties to the marriage that can be excluded from the divorce proceedings. One of such assets are called inherited assets. However, there are some exceptions to this rule. The first exception is that the inherited property or asset has not intermingled with matrimonial affairs. For example, you inherited a property. Your spouse must not have lived in that property or have made contribution towards that inherited property. Once your spouse makes any form of contribution by way of rent or by way of mortgage or by way of repairs, the court will unfortunately consider that inherited property as a matrimonial asset. Another exception to this rule is that if upon ring fencing the inherited assets, it is going to constitute hardship to the other party, the court has no choice but to consider the inherited assets. For example, you and your spouse jointly own one property, and you now inherited 5 properties, and you are insisting on the former matrimonial home to be sold so you can get your own share of the equity. And unfortunately, it is going to constitute hardship on your spouse or your ex-spouse. The court could put into consideration the fact that you have inherited 5 properties, and also the fact that it's going to constitute undue hardship, especially if your spouse is going to be rendered homeless. The court has no choice but to put into consideration your inherited properties. For further enquiries, please do not hesitate to contact me, but kindly take note that our consultation fee would apply. Thank you.